I love Hardison Cochran. And every time I pass by the building, I'm like, hey guys, what's up?
Hello and welcome to the Hardison Cochran podcast. I'm your host, Bill Campbell. The jovial voice you heard to kick off this podcast belongs to Karen. Karen is a former workers' compensation client of Hardison Cochran. She is from Cary, North Carolina. We asked her to come on the show today to talk about her experience going through a work injury and also her experience with Hardison Cochran. As you'll be able to tell, she was very excited to share her experiences. So sit back and enjoy our conversation with former Hardison Cochran client, Karen. I hope you're doing well today, Karen, and I appreciate you joining us. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Basically, was born and raised in Wake County, so I've been here pretty much all my life. I worked with state government for about 27 years in different capacities. North Carolina's been my home, and I love it.
You were a workers' compensation client of Hardison Cochran. So let's talk about the day of your injury. Can you tell us exactly what happened?
I was on my way to a meeting with two of my coworkers, and we were walking instead of driving the car. And it was kind of cool that day, and I had my hands in my pocket. And we were just walking along, and as we walked along, I came upon some uneven pavement, and I actually fell onto my left side. And because of it, I was injured.
What specific body parts were injured when you fell?
My knee, my hip, all of that. My hip, my knee, and it was like both of my knees were injured doing that. When I fell, when I got up, I actually couldn't walk. And someone had to take me back to my building.
After your coworkers assisted you back to your building, what happened in the building? And what was going through your mind minutes after your accident? I'm sure it was a very hectic time.
Well, when I got back to my building, the first thing I did was ask to fill out an injury report because I didn't know if I was going to need anything, because as I got back to my building, I felt, I started feeling better. I was like, well, I'm probably going to be okay, but just in case, let me fill out this form. And my supervisor had me to fill out a form, and also my two coworkers to fill out a form as witnesses to what happened. On that day, there was like an open house because we had moved into a new building. So the thing we had to do was we were meeting and greeting people. So I was like, okay, I feel pretty good now. So I kind of walked up to the front, limping a little bit, but, kind of did a meet and greet for about 5 minutes, then went back to my office. We had asked for some ice to apply to my knee because it was really hurting.
Obviously, now after the fact, we know you had a very serious injury. But from what you just said, it sounds like you tried to fight through it at first. At what point did you say, hey, this is serious. I'm really injured here?
It was the next day because I had a hard time getting out of bed, moving. And so I called my supervisor. I said I could come in. I went in for about, 5 or 10 minutes. And then they told me they had arranged for me to go to an urgent care.
How long after the day of the injury did you decide to at least contact a lawyer about your situation and get some more information?
Well, to be honest with you, it was a while because I had went to the urgent care. Then they put me in physical therapy. That was quite, and then I realized, I said, I may not get right from this. Just because it was just while I was in physical therapy, the therapist said, you know what, you may need to go back to the doctor because you still got some type of impingement. And I'm like, this may not be this may not go as well as I want it to. I may have some permanent damage here. I said, so I think maybe I need to consult an attorney. Even though the workers' compensation people were working with me, I said, maybe I need to consult. And that's when I turned to Hardison Cochran.
It sounds like Hardison Cochran was on your mind. What led you to giving us a call? How did you know we were lawyers who would help specifically with a work injury?
Actually, the TV commercial, Ben, who does the commercials, he just seems like one of the guys next door. He didn't seem pushy like some of these other guys on some of the commercials. He just seemed like like he would have been my neighbor, just really concerned about me. And so I called and I got an appointment, and they hooked me up with one of the attorneys there. Hooked me up with Jack. Jack was really cool.
Okay, tell me about your lawyer, Jack Hardison.
Oh, wow. By the time I got in to see Jack, things at work weren't going so well. It's like I had gone back to work. It's like they wanted me to come back to work full time, and I was having a hard time being at work. I was just like, just really a hard time. And so by the time I got to Jack, I was suffering, and Jack said, "Okay, tell me everything that's going on, everything that happened, and let's see where we need to go from here." And he got my medical records like in no time. And then from there, he was contacting me. I didn't have to do much of anything. He and I don't know if it's his assistants or the person that worked with him, they were on the phone with me, constantly if there were any changes, about appointments. Actually, I was still having so much pain and going back and forth I had a back surgery and then 2 hip surgeries. The second hip surgery I would not have had if it had not been for Jack, because they really forced the issue that I really needed to have the second surgery because I couldn't function. I was having a hard time. He was the one that said, "Why don't we get a second opinion?" I never would have thought of that either. But he was on top of things. He, whatever, if I needed anything, I can call. If I had any questions about anything, I could call him. He would explain to me the process of what was going on, what the state attorney was saying, and what they were saying. And so Jack was awesome.
It sounds like you were very satisfied with Jack's ability as a lawyer.
Oh, yes, I was. Jack was, like I said, he was awesome. He knows his stuff. He knows the law. And like I said, I could have, I really feel like it was a godsend they put me with him, because he was exactly what I needed. Things at work didn't turn out as well as they should have, but I was still able to get my workers' comp.
Now, I know you spoke on the phone a lot at first with Jack, but what did you think about him after you finally met him in person?
Jack came across as a good old country boy. I expected him, kind of reminds me of Blake Shelton a little bit. I felt like he needed to have a guitar with him and sing all the law, workers' compensation law.
Television and media as a whole kind of shapes folks' expectations as what to getting a lawyer really means and what they have to go through after calling a lawyer. What was it like for you? How did the reality compare to your expectations?
Before I called the attorney, just really trying to figure out, should I call someone? Should I not call someone? And then when I decided to do it, I wasn't sure if it was going to be one of those things where I would have to show up in court and testify to this and testify, looking at, seeing all this stuff on television about criminal law and stuff like that, you just never know. So I thought I was going to have to be in court a lot, things like that. And, and that can be nerve-wracking, thinking that I was going to have to go in and testify. But Jack took care of everything. I didn't have to go into any court. If a state attorney showed up in front of me right now, I wouldn't know who it was, if it was a male or a female, because he took care of everything. Any, affidavits I needed to sign, he would just say, "Hey, Karen, this is Jack." When his number would come up, I'm like, "Oh, it's Jack." Or if it wasn't Jack, it was Tammy. But either one of them, they were, really, 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 really good.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is that the only thing you had to focus on was getting to your medical appointments and getting well.
That's all I had to do. Physical therapy, I made all my therapy appointments, because I didn't want anyone to say, well, she wasn't cooperative or she wasn't compliant, and I was compliant. I made sure that I was compliant. And Jack did, he didn't have to stress it, but he said, if something happens and you can't make a therapy appointment for whatever reason, make sure you call them and also let us know, for whatever reason. If I had the flu or, if there was some reason I couldn't make it. We wanted to show them I wasn't faking anything. I was seriously having pain. This was real. When I didn't have to show up in anybody's courtroom, that was a big surprise to me. I was thinking, when you see court TV and stuff, people are in there, testifying, and the fact that I didn't have to do any of that. I did have one thing. We had a mediation. This was at the beginning. We knew that in the mediation, they would be looking for a way to say, this is not a workers' compensation. We don't need to go through all of this. They wanted to settle for, X amount of dollars, which would not have gotten me through my second surgery or through any of my physical therapy.
Now that you've been through the whole process, you've seen what it's like to have a workers' comp injury. You've seen how Hardison and Cochrane handles those injuries for their clients. Would you refer a friend or family member to Hardison and Cochrane?
I would refer them to Hardison and Cochrane in a heartbeat. Several reasons. One, everyone there, from the receptionist on, so nice. And they make you feel like you're at home when you walk into the office. It's not like you're walking into a business. It's like you're just walking into someone's living room and you're just, there to see a friend. Secondly, they are on top of everything. No matter if I would call and say, hey, I have a question about something. They're like, oh, you know what? You called just in time because we just got this. Or, we've got this and we have one more question, or we got something else we need to look at. Whatever I needed, or when I said I wasn't doing well, the physical therapy at the beginning wasn't helping me and I was still having problems. They were on top of everything. Thirdly, Jack has such a vision of what needs to be done, what has to be done. And I didn't have a single worry in the world in working with Hardison Cochrane. And I would use them again. As a matter of fact, I will probably be using them come really soon on my denial of disability.
I really appreciate your time today, Karen. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much.